President Claudia Sheinbaum of Mexico strikes back again at Donald Trump. In her latest press conference, she took out a map of Mexico from 1607. And she said, look, Donald, if you're going to start threatening to conquer this nation or that nation, how about what we really do is rename the United States Mexican America? And let's redraw those borders from 1607 if we're going to start talking about territorial expansion. I love this. This is how you have to kind of just mock Donald Trump back and show strength. I want you to watch this, and we translated her voice with AI here. Here, play this clip.
Obviously, Gulf of Mexico is name recognized by the United Nations. It's an organization of the United Nations, but the next question is, why don't we call it Mexican America? It sounds nice, doesn't it? Right. Since 1607, the Apatzingan Constitution referred to it as Mexican America. So, let's call it Mexican America. It sounds nice, doesn't it? And Gulf of Mexico, well, you see, since 1607, and it's also recognized internationally. Well, historically speaking, because as you might know, I know they're going to ask me. I think that yesterday, President Trump, they misinformed President Trump, with all due respect, because I believe they told him that Felipe Calderon and Garcia Luna were still in power in Mexico.
Yeah, as Ian Bremmer says, file that under two can play at that game, Donald. You heard her right there, getting out that old map to show Mexico's territorial claims on the United States. And I've been covering Claudia Sheinbaum's responses to Donald Trump when Donald Trump first threatened Mexico and Canada with 25% tariffs. President Claudia Sheinbaum said, if you do that to us, Donald, we're going to make it hurt for you. We're going to make you feel pain. And by the way, Donald, perhaps you shouldn't be spending all of this money on military and weapons of war and your designs of conquest, and perhaps deal with a comprehensive immigration solution versus just blaming everybody else. And by the way, don't blame Mexico for synthetic drugs. We here in Mexico don't have a synthetic drug problem. It's actually from the United States where that problem originates, and that 95 to 99% of the casualties and deaths are coming from inside the United States. And she goes, also, by the way, you know, a lot of the violence in Mexico is caused by the fact that America has a rampant gun culture and your weapons of war get exported across our border. So let's have that talk, Donald. And by the way, do you realize that some of your biggest car manufacturers are based in Mexico? So put some tariffs on us and we'll make sure that you feel pain as well. And then Donald Trump spoke to her, and Donald Trump tried to claim like a victory in the negotiation, and she responded right away. She goes, no, I didn't change any of my positions. I made it very clear where Mexico stands on these issues. Donald Trump knows that he can go pound sand. And again, it's not just Mexico who's standing up to Donald Trump. We're now seeing this internationally. We're seeing it with the EU. We're seeing it in Canada. We're seeing it with the UK. We're seeing it in countries like Panama. Heck, we're seeing it in countries like the Bahamas. But here's some of the other headlines just from the past 24 hours. France warns Donald Trump against threatening EU sovereign borders. The foreign minister of France hits back at Donald Trump after Trump refuses to rule out military control over Greenland. And the foreign minister of France reminded Donald Trump that we in the European Union have a mutual defense agreement. So if you intend to pursue territorial conquests of Greenland, then we're going to defend Denmark, who's not just a member of NATO, by the way, if you're going to attack your NATO allies, but we here in Europe owe a defense duty to Denmark, and we will defend Denmark against you, Donald Trump. So that's one headline. Then you have Germany's chancellor warning Donald Trump over threatening to take control of Greenland on Wednesday. German's chancellor calls out Donald Trump over his threats to seize control of Greenland, saying the inviolability of borders applies to every country. Borders must not be shifted by force, said Germany's chancellor. This principle applies, and it is a foundation of our peaceful order. Again, Scholz was reacting to all of Donald Trump's statements, and Scholz said he had discussed the issue with fellow European leaders on Wednesday, reporting a certain lack of understanding regarding current statements from the U.S. among European partners. The principle of the inviolability of borders applies to every country, whether it's to the east or west of us, and every state must abide by it, whether it's a small country or a very powerful state. It is a fundamental principle of international law and a core component of what we call Western values, Donald. Germany's chancellor also highlighted the importance of the Western Defense Alliance, NATO, calling it the central pillar of the transatlantic relationship. During his press conference this week, Trump made more attacks on NATO, to which Germany's chancellor said, "One thing is clear. The security situation in Europe will remain very tense for the foreseeable future. We must respond to this in a calm and resolute manner." And then they go on to basically say, look, there is a mutual defense agreement. It is out of the question that the French's foreign minister, who I referenced before, Jean-Noel Barrot, Barrett said that European Union must wake up and strengthen itself militarily and should not be intimidated or made to feel insecure by Donald Trump. If you're asking me whether I think the U.S. will invade Greenland, the answer is no, he said. But have we entered an era in which the law of the jungle is returning? The answer is yes. Here's page 1 from the Financial Times. Europe's leaders warn Trump against meddling with its sovereign borders. Greenland threat sparks backlash. EU defense pact covers the island. Musk's support of the AfD right-wing extreme neo-Nazi party in Germany adds to concerns. And this article talks about how European leaders are warning Donald Trump, do not meddle with our continent's borders. German chancellor, who I just referenced. It goes on to talk about, in addition, the French foreign minister who I mentioned. And it says the EU treaty contains a mutual defense clause that specifies if a member is a victim of armed aggression on its territory, the other states have an obligation of aid and assistance by all the means in their power. In other words, you touch Greenland, which is part of Denmark, which is part of the EU, we're going to fight you, United States, and you want to trigger a war with Europe. By the way, everybody, check out the interview I did. I've done 2 interviews actually now with Corey Hargraves. He's a former Army sniper. He was sent on 2 deployments in Iraq as in connection with being a sniper. He's someone who grew up on a Native American reservation to a single mom. He was very poor. He said the only pathway available to him to do anything was join the military. And he has a very unique perspective here as well that he shares about someone like Donald Trump who's never served in the military, and a lot of these chicken hawk MAGA Republicans who, by the way, were out there saying, oh, Trump's going to stop World War III, Trump's going to stop World War III from happening. And he goes, now you're going to send young men and women to die in wars against our allies, to attack a NATO country like Denmark or other countries in the EU, or attack Canada. And just watch that interview. But you know who's loving all of this? Russia. This is being reported in the Denmark papers, this out of Copenhagen. Russian cheers for Trump. Quote, he will dismantle the remnants of the old world order much faster and more effectively than we could. We do it from the outside. He does it from the inside. Here's another Google Translate of another headline there. The mood is good in the Kremlin. Trump has just fulfilled Putin's greatest wish. They can already imagine how Russia can now lay claim to Estonia, Finland, Poland, and other nations.
American legislation have fallen into a pattern in recent years. A new president is elected with control of House and the Senate, and they use recognition to enact the signature peace legislation in their first 2 years in office. They can lose control of House of Representatives in the next midterm election. Variations on the pattern have occurred in each of last three presidencies. Does recognition ever fail? Yes. During his first term, Trump and Republicans initially tried to use recognition to repeal ACA, also known as Obamacare, but failed when three Republican senators opposed the effort. Arizona Sen. John McCain dramatically killed the effort with a late-night no vote on Senate floor as he was being treated for brain cancer. McCain has since died. The failure to repeal Obamacare continues to sting Trump and Republicans, and they will have it mind as consider how to proceed with their agenda when he retake White House. For what it was, Trump still says he had liked to replace Obamacare, but his only concept of brain, which is he has not shared publicly. In fact, Republicans have publicly shared their specific plans for any of current top priorities related to immigration, energy, production, or taxes. There will be serious debates on what they can pass related to any issue, such as immigration, especially if legislative debate happens alongside Trump promised mass deportation effort. Trump made a lot of new tax promises on